Shalom from Beit and thank you for joining me in the study of Parashat Balak. You can also listen to the class on YouTube and also on your favorite podcast platform. Today, we will talk about the lonely nation. Bilaam, the magician, is trying to curse the Jewish people. At the end, God changes curses to a blessing. But one of the things that Bilaam says is that Am levadad ishkon. Ki merosh tzurim erenu, Bilaam says that I'm going to see him from the top of the mountains. Migvaot ashurenu, from valleys I can see the people. And Am levadad ishkon. This is a nation that will dwell alone. Uvagoim lo itchashav, which is very difficult to translate. It can be that among the nations he will not be considered as a nation, or he will not consider the nations. He will not care, so to speak, about the other nations. So there is ambiguity here, and intentionally, and we will try to understand what is this idea of Am levadad, a lonely nation, or a nation that dwells alone. So let's see this Midrash in Shmot Rabbah, which says something very interesting that we need to understand. The first word is hen, hey, and nun. And then Bilaam says, Am levadad ishkon. This is a nation that will dwell alone. Ma'u hen. So the Midrash is trying to focus on the word hen, hey, nun, which in English it will be translated as almost like das or this. So the Midrash is trying to explain it, and it says the following: Kol haotiyot mizdavgin chutz mishnei otiyot halalu. It says all the letters of the alphabet are basically can join together, besides two, the letter hey and the letter nun. What does that mean? So it says like that, Keitzad, how come? Aleph and Tet, the letter Aleph and the letter Tet, Harei Yud. So if you combine the numerical value of each letter, Aleph is 1, Tet is 9, so 1 plus 9 is 10. Bet and Chet, the letter Bet is 2, the letter Chet is 8, 2 plus 8 is 10. Gimel, the letter Gimel and the letter Zayin, letter Gimel, the numerical value is 3, Zayin is 7, 3 plus 7 is 10. Dalet and Vav, the letter Dalet is 4, the letter Vav is 6, 4 plus 6 is 10. What about Hey? Hey cannot join another letter in order to have the numerical value of 10, so it's only Hey with Hey, because Hey is 5 plus 5 is Hey. So you see that the letter Hey stands by itself. Okay, so that's when we reach 10. What about 100? So then he says, V'chen haot nun, ein la zivug. The letter nun also cannot join any other letter. Why? Because Yud and Tzadik, Yud, the letter Yud is 10, Tzadik is 90. That's the numerical value of the letter Tzadi. So Yud and Tzadi are together 100. Kaf and Pei, the letter Kaf is 20, Pei is 80, 20 plus 80 is 100. Lamed and Ayin, the letter Lamed is 30, the letter Ayin is 70, again 100. Mem, the letter Mem is 40, the letter Samech is 60, 40 plus 60 is 100. Nimtza Nun leatzma, but Nun, the numerical value of Nun is 50, and the only letter that it can join in order to get to 100 is another Nun, but no any other letter. So when you talk about the numbers of 1 to 10, the letter Hey stands for its own. When you talk about the numbers 10 to 100, Nun, 50, is the only letter. So therefore, Hen, the letter Hey, and the letter Nun stand on their own. They cannot join any other letter. Says the Midrash, Amar HaKadosh Baruch Hu, כשם ששני אותיות הללו אינן יכולים להזדווג עם כל האותיות אלא לעצמן, the same way that those letters cannot, the letter Hey and the letter Nun, cannot join any other letter in order to complete 10 or 100, כך ישראל, the same thing with עם ישראל, with the nation of Israel, אינן יכולים להידבק עם כל העובדי כוכבים ומזלות הקדמונים. They cannot attach themselves, they cannot glue themselves, they cannot join any of the other nations. אלא לעצמן מפורשים. But rather, they're going to always be separate. Like the letter Hey and like the letter Nun. הן עם לבדד ישכון. שאפילו שונא גוזר עליהם לחלל השבת, ומבטל את המילה או לעבוד עבודת כוכבים, because even when they confront a life and death situation, which is, let's say the other nations make a decree that we should not keep Shabbat or we should not do ברית מילה, הם נהרגים ואין מתערבים בהם. We would prefer to die and not to assimilate into the other nations. שנאמר, because it says, אין עם לבדד ישכון. We are a nation that dwell alone, ובגויים לא יתחשב. And we really are oblivious to what the other nation try to hurt us or to make decrees that will cause us a damage. ומה אני עושה כל שונא וכל אויב שיגזור עליהם גזרה? And Hashem says, because of this commitment and devotion that the Jewish people have for me and for our religion, anyone who will make decree against them, I'll take care of them. Hashem will protect us and will punish the other nations. As it says, an am kelavi yakum, that our nation, we will dwell alone, we will go through very difficult times, we will never want to assimilate and to integrate into the other nations, and Hashem will look upon that and will appreciate it very much and will lead us to what? To be like this lion that can roar and can win the battle. So in a way, the Midrash looks at this idea that we will dwell alone as a positive. It shows the devotion, the dedication, the commitment that we have to Hashem and to our religion, A. And B, in a way, it's almost like our DNA. We cannot integrate totally and totally immerse ourselves with the other nations. We can have many things to do with them, but we will never be them. We are a nation that stands alone. So that's what the Midrash offers us. Rabbi Shimshon Raphael here has a different take on it. And he says, what does it mean, an am levadad yishkon, that we will be a nation that dwell alone? הוא יחיה בארצו הגדורה בגבולותיה, ולא ירבה קשרים עם עמים אחרים. This is very interesting, 19th century. Rabbi Shimshon Raphael Hirsch is in Germany, and he's talking about the future sovereign country that we will have, not knowing that we will have a state of Israel. And he says he's going to dwell in his own country, limited by its borders, and will not have too much to do with the other nations around him. הוא יקיים את תפקידו הפנימי הלאומי כעם בעל חברה לאומית. He will fulfill his own internal mission to be a nation that dwell in the land of Israel. הוא לא יבקש את גדולתו כגוי בין הגויים. He will not ask his greatness or to be recognized like the other nations כגוף לאומי המרשים בכוחו ובגבורתו. He will just do what God says in the Torah, which is, by the way, a very interesting thing. It's a very limiting, in a way, and in a bit, I would say even surprising, knowing Rabbi Shimshon Raphael Hirsch's writing, that he basically looks at the Jewish people in the land of Israel as a nation that really just need to deal internally. And he does not see the nation of Israel as a nation that will be a light unto the nation, unless he claims that by doing what we need to do and not trying to do too much or to be recognized on the international stage, we will be de facto because people will look upon us. So I'm not sure about that, but I would say that that's what Rabbi Shimshon Raphael Hirsch says, and Am Levadad Yishkon, is that Am Yisrael would focus on his own mission and not trying to be recognized like other nations would like to be recognized. So the Midrash says, it looks at Am Levadad Yishkon from the idea of religious assimilation. Rabbi Shimshon Raphael Hirsch talk more about the national assimilation, meaning we becoming a nation, forming ourselves as a nation in our land. It's for the purpose of us being us and not trying to be someone else. Shadal, Rabbi Lutzato, says the following: לבדד ישכון, שאינו נחשב בכלל הגויים, כי אין לו אדמה. איזה דבר טוב יש באומרו כי אין ליעקב אדמה. So he says, really when Bilaam says, Am levadad ishkon, uvagoim lo yitchashav, and among the nations, lo yitchashav, he will not be considered, is because he doesn't have a land. For now, Bilaam looks at Am Yisrael and they are intense in the desert. They don't have a land yet. So he says, what kind of a good thing is that we don't have a land? אם כן אני אומר כי לבדד ישכון הכוונה נבדל מן הגויים. So he says, no, when we're talking about the idea that Am Yisrael dwells alone, it's alone separate from the other nations. ועל ידי כן לא נוטה מן הדרך הטוב והישר. And this is why Am Yisrael keep the path, the divine path. ולפיכך, השם אלוקיו עמו להצליח. And therefore, Hashem is with him to make him successful. ועל הדרך הזה אני מפרש ובגויים לא יתחשב, כלומר, לא שם עצמו בכלל לגויים. Meaning we do not define ourselves based on our land. We define ourselves based on our national identity, the Torah, the mitzvot, meaning the land, it's not what makes us a nation. That's what the Shadal says, meaning the idea of being separated is that we are still a nation even if we don't have a land. So this is obviously a little bit of a different perspective that obviously has sources in terms of that when we received the Torah on Sinai, we became a nation. Nation without a land? Answer is yes. What cements us as people is not necessarily the land. The land obviously enriches our religious life, national life. This is where we built a nation and a country that can become a light unto the nation. But what makes us a nation, and we know it from history, even when we were expelled from the land of Israel, we will still always Am Yisrael. Rav Soloveitchik has a very long discussion about this idea of Am levadad ishkon, a nation that dwells alone. It's a bit long, but I think very meaningful. And Rav Soloveitchik suggests the following. Unity in Israel is a basic principle in Judaism. We have formulated this principle in one sentence. You are one, your name is one, and who is like your people Israel, a unique nation on earth? We say it, we recite it every Shabbat Mincha prayer. The Mincha on Shabbat, that's what we say. Ata echad, you God is one, v'shimcha echad, your name is one, u'mi ke'amcha Yisrael go echad ba'aretz. There is no any other nation on earth that is one like Am Yisrael. So obviously we're talking about the idea of unity in Israel. The principle of unity expresses itself in two ways. First, the unity of Jews as members of a spiritual community, as a congregation which was established through the conclusion of the covenant at Mount Sinai. The Torah that was given to us created this first component in our unity. The unity of the Jewish people as a community is based upon the uniqueness of the Jewish way of life, a Torah existence. What ties the Yemenite water carrier in the streets of Tel Aviv to the Jews of Boston, obviously Rav Soloveitchik was in Boston, is what? Is a uniform Orach Chaim. Orach Chaim is one of the volumes of the Shulchan Aruch that was written by Rav Yosef Karo in the 16th century in Israel, which is basically a book of codified laws that most of us, obviously follow. The Shema Yisrael, Shabbat, Kol Nidrei night, the Seder night, Kashrus, Tefillin, the characteristic trait of kindness, the hope of and yearning for redemption. Meaning all those values are common values that makes us all one. I don't care how much mitzvot you observe and perform. At the end of the day, there is a Jewish DNA that connects us all. Different sections, different sectors, different eidot, different congregations. You can come from Yemen, you can come from France, you can come from the States, you can come from everywhere you want. There is something that connects us all. The Hebrew word eidah, congregation, is the same as ed, witness, and edut, which means testimony. Thus, a spiritual religious entity is tied through a transcendental ethical consciousness to a vast memory of a people about divine law with a common past and collective future. A collective testimony united us all into Jewish community. The Jew who erases from his memory this great testimony, destroying the unique collective tradition, breaks the tie which joins him with the Jewish community as part of a congregation, as part of a spiritual Torah entity. So the first component that was given to us was the Torah. This is not just a book of laws or a book that teaches us how to live our lives. It's the book that connects us all together. And therefore, when we don't follow any of the values and any of the mitzvot, we are in a way separating ourselves from this DNA. So Rav Soloveitchik talks first about this component of unity. He continues. Unity also manifests itself in our unique political historical lot as a nation. So now we are talking about a second component. The first component was what I will call, and Rav Soloveitchik talks about it obviously later, Brit Goral and Brit Ye'ud, which means there is a covenant of destiny and there is a covenant of Elat, which means you have a historical political covenant and you have a religious covenant. So now he's talking about the political historical Lat as a nation. We are unique, not only in our way of life, but also in our historical transmigration and in our paradoxical fate. Our history would not fit into a different historical framework, and our fate is incomprehensible. The enigma of our existence is primarily revealed through our loneliness and our affliction in all times, the current era included. Let's pause here for a second. First, I think we just need to appreciate Rav Soloveitchik's perception on history and understanding and learning from history about who we are. You look at all other nations that are mentioned in the Bible. They are gone. Did you meet lately someone who is Edomite or Jebusite or Hivite or Canaanite? No, they are gone. All those ancient nations are gone. The Am Yisrael, the nation of Israel, is still here. We probably went through the most difficult challenges in history. Pogroms, murder, decrees, afflictions, tribulations. And we are still here. What does it mean about us? What does it mean about chosenness? What does it mean about the relationship that we have with God? What does it mean about our history and our destiny? Rav Soloveitchik is asking all those questions, and he looks at history and he says, there is something unique here. We went through all of that, and especially in the current era, he's obviously talking about after the Holocaust. And even after the Holocaust, we are still here. And not only that we are just still here, look at what we achieved after the Shoah, after the Holocaust. Look at the state of Israel after almost 80 years since it was established. It's not only surviving, it's thriving despite all difficulties. So Rav Soloveitchik continues and says, it is a nation that will dwell alone and will not be reckoned among the nations. The state of Israel did not avoid this unique fate. Quite the contrary, it has given expression to it in a more concrete fashion. This is, by the way, a very powerful sentence. Many people thought, especially at the beginning of Zionism, that if we will establish a state of Israel, that will be the end of anti-Semitism. That will be the end of the Jewish issue. It's not. The establishment of the state of Israel, when Ben-Gurion announced the state of Israel, so many countries told him, don't do it, including some close friends to the state of Israel. He did it against all odds. With God's help and with our brave soldiers, we were able to establish the state of Israel and continue battle after battle, and we are here, and we are not only surviving, we are striving. But it didn't end the question of the issue of anti-Semitism. We see it every day. It rises. So we can see that the fact that we dwell alone, it in a way would help us through all this history to survive. No Jew can renounce his part of the unity, which emerges from the fate of loneliness of the Jewish people as a nation. The political historical unity is based upon the conclusion of the covenant in Egypt, which occurred even prior to the giving of the Torah at Sinai, which means the historical political covenant is more ancient or came before the covenant of Sinai. And I shall take you to me as people, and I will be a God to you. This covenant forced upon us all one uniform historical fate. The Hebrew word am, nation, is identical to the Hebrew word im, with. Our fate of unity manifests itself through a historical, indispensable union. This is an incredible insight to history, to fate, to destination, to nation. One of the things that Rav Soloveitchik did not talk about, and I will just add, is that the Talmud in Yevamot describes when someone would like to convert to Judaism comes to the Beit Din, the first question that we ask him is not about his religious commitment. It's about, why do you want to join us? Look at us. Look at our history. We were chased. People made all kinds of conspiracies against us. They killed us. We went through so much tribulation and affliction. Why do you want to be part of what? First and foremost, part of the historical political covenant. And then we teach him about our history. And if after that he says to us, I would like to join you, then we introduce him to the Sinai covenant, to the religious covenant. The idea is that we have both components in our nation. The covenant of Sinai, which are obviously the religious life, the values, the commitment, the devotion to religion, but at the same time the understanding of our role in the history of the world and our special, unique covenant, the historical political covenant. And Am Levadad Ishkon, it's not that we are only separate or different from the other nations just because we eat kosher and we keep Shabbat and we get married in a specific way and we are keeping Pesach. This is not the only reason why we stand alone. We stand alone because of our history. We stand alone because of what we went through. There is no any other nation that went through what we had to go through and to remain a nation. I think sometimes we forget it because of the day of today, tribulations and afflictions and challenges and difficulties. But sometimes we need to pause and to think about where we are. And with all the issues and with all the challenges and with all the difficulties, just to take a pause and to be grateful. To be grateful that we are part of this incredible, unique nation that has these two components to what constitute us as a nation. So Rav Soloveitchik looks at Am Levadad Ishkon and says, this is our secret of survival. It doesn't mean that we cannot cooperate and partner and do things with the other nations, but we need to know who we are. And we need to know that this uniqueness is not just like a nice thing to have. It's part of our covenant. It's something that will never go away. It's something that will endure forever. It's something that it's basically rooted and perpetuated for eternity. So that's Rav Soloveitchik. He continues. From its very inception, Judaism has been strikingly different from other faiths. It has embodied ideas, a way of life, and aspirations for the future which set the Jewish people apart from the other groups. A rather unfriendly observer, Bilaam, still felt compelled to characterize the Jews as a nation that will dwell alone and will not be reckoned among the nations. There are three primary areas of distinctiveness without which Judaism would lose its essential character. Commandments, these are the mitzvot, behavioral imperatives which are derived from the divine will. Doctrines, Judaism regards its dogmas and values as verities which are rooted in the Torah tradition and whose authority is ultimately divine. And our theological and philosophical premises about God, man, and creation are uniquely Jewish and through the course of centuries have been preserved despite efforts at dissuasion, ridicule, and torture. We in the modern times have not been authorized by our millennium-old history to revise these historical attitudes or to trade the fundamentals of our faith for illusory pursuit of interfaith goodwill. This would be a betrayal of our great tradition and would furthermore produce no practical benefits. A cringing readiness to barter away our identity will never evoke the respect of any who confront us. Only a staunch and unequivocal bearing, reflecting our firm commitment to God and sense of pride and privilege in what we are, will impress other faith communities. He was asked about interfaith discussion, and it's not now the time to speak about it from all different perspectives, but Rav Soloveitchik said something that I think everyone will agree, which is know who you are. People will respect the fact that you know who you are. Sometimes you will be able to compromise, sometimes you will be able to understand others, but you need to know who are you, who you are. You need to have a strong spine. And only when you have it, you can really go to the outside. If you don't know who you are, it's so dangerous to go out there because you will be confused. Says Rav Soloveitchik, first, da miata, know who you are. And then you will be able to have a discussion. Future expectations. Judaism foresees and eagerly awaits the coming of the Mashiach, the Messiah, the vindication of Jewish singularity and chosenness, the ingathering of the dispersed in the Holy Land, the re-establishment of the temple, the universal acknowledgement of ethical monotheism, and the realization of world peace. These beliefs have sustained us for countless centuries in a period of trial. They are called eschatological expectations since they represent our vision of the future, which we anticipate with exultant certainty, meaning we know it's going to come. Other faiths define their eschatological expectations in other terms, adopting the religious practices of others, the dilution of dogmatic certitudes, and the waiving of eschatological expectations would spell the end of the vibrant and great faith experience of 4,000 years old history. Rav Soloveitchik basically says, we are unique. And you know what? We should be proud of it. We have totally different set of values. Yes, some of the values even look similar to our traditions, to other nations, but they are uniquely ours. Know who you are, know your tradition, be part of it, be proud of it. If you're not going to be proud of it, someone else will cause you to be proud of it. So it's better to just choose it. To understand that our religion is not only about commandments and divine expectations to do A, B, and C, but it's also to look in a very holistic way on our religion. This is commandments, this is history, there is destiny. This is the true meaning of Am Levadad Ishkon, a nation that will dwell alone. The Rebbe Milubavitch adds to it and says the sturdiness referred here as the Jewish people's abiding and unwavering selfless devotion to God, including their willingness to lay down their lives, if necessary, rather than betray this devotion. We inherit this quality from the patriarchs and matriarchs, meaning from our avot and imaot, who internalized this devotion so intensely that it became part of their being, which was in turn passed on to their progeny. Which means, according to the Rebbe Milubavitch, he looks at Am Levadad Ishkon little different than Rav Soloveitchik. He looks more through the religious spectrum. He says, look at the history. People were willing to give their lives for their religion. You don't find it so much in other nations and other religions. Why would people do that? So you can say they are devoted to their religion, but yes, but it's your life. Answer is, we know that we are connected uniquely to God. We know that we have the truth. When you know that you have the truth, you don't want to change it. And knowing it, knowing that what you do, this is the way of life, it's easier to pass it along to the other generations. So basically, when Bilaam says to us, "En am levadad ishkon," this is a nation that will dwell alone, Obviously, it comes with a price. You will never be like anyone else, which sometimes it's just easier to be like everyone else. But there is a value in being different, which is totally different than a price. A value is something that has no price on it. A value is a way of life. A value, it's that you know that you live a true life, a meaningful life. So yes, sometimes there is a price to pay, and sometimes the price is very costly. But we are talking about values. We are talking about covenant. We are talking about historical political covenant, and we talk about a religious covenant. We talk about a unique nation that can feel that they are God's nation by feeling it, by knowing it, by internalizing it. Despite the cost, despite the price, we believe that not only that we are Am Levadad Ishkon, but at the end, Uke'ari Itnasa, we will be like a lion that rises and being recognized as the leader of this world. It will take time. There are still many challenges. But we fully believe in the future expectation that we have, that at the time of Mashiach, that will come soon, yes, we will be Am Levadad. We will be a nation that dwells alone, but will be recognized by the other nations as a leader to lead this world to a much better place. Thank you.